Today, I'm going to be giving you a market update. I'm going to be looking at the Bitcoin chart as we've just had a pretty decent correction here in the last few hours. I'm then going to look at Bitcoin dominance. Some major things are happening with the Bitcoin dominance chart that for me are indicative of an alt season. And then I'm going to look at some other charts also potentially pointing in the direction of alt season either being here or being extremely close. And then I'm going to share with you two altcoins on my radar, which look like they're ready to break out any day now. So if that sounds interesting, make sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Also, check out the mentor tier link down below. I'm going to be doing a full research methodology class where I essentially teach my mentor members through a PowerPoint presentation and how you can have an edge with some personal secrets that I use to find the best projects in the markets. So make sure to, join that mentor tier if you're interested in that. You can use the code ETH, that's ETH at checkout to save yourself 25% off your first month. So Bitcoin has just had a pretty sizable drawdown since it put in this kind of double top, you could say, around 123K to 124K. Especially in the last few hours, Bitcoin has fell down, coming to lows of around 114K. Now, that number that it fell down to is not a random number. If we throw on some local fibs, we can see that number brings us down roughly to around the 786 fib level. So it's very possible that we use this level as support and then we get a bounce. When we look at the 4-hour RSI, that also looks like it's pretty reset. So to me, Bitcoin is looking like we're potentially going to see some signs of reversal quite soon. However, it is possible that we come down a bit lower to test this 111K again, which, if you remember, was the high that we put in back in May. So it's very possible we come down, do kind of like a double bottom here, use this support again, flipping previous resistance into support. It's very possible we do that, and that wouldn't necessarily break any structures. What would be bearish for me would be a close below 109K. To me, that would start to break down some structures as you're getting into previous highs there, heading all the way back to January. That to me wouldn't be a great sign, but honestly, I don't believe that will be on the cards anytime soon. I think before we get to those levels, we're going to be testing all-time highs. And I believe this level between 127 and 131K will get hit. That is not a random level that I'm throwing out. It's a level based on the 109K from the Trump pump back in January 2025 down to the tariff Armageddon crash at 74K. We throw on the fibs there and we get that range between 127 and 131K. That is the level which I believe we will hit. I believe we'll hit that before the rate cut in September, most likely, though it's possible we could hit it a little bit afterwards. Shortly after that, I expect a pretty sizable drawdown in the markets as the stock market's been going up loads, the Mag 7's been pumping a ton, and crypto has also been going up a lot lately. I think we've had 4 consecutive green months, and we're heading into a 5th potentially in August if we are green in August as well. So we have a 71% chance of a rate cut of 25 basis points and a 3% chance of a rate cut of 50 basis points. So it seems most likely that we will get this rate cut in September, and it seems like markets are already pricing that in. Some would argue markets have already fully priced that in. Now, in relation to this quick crash that we've had here, I'm honestly not too concerned by this dump or crash or whatever you want to call it. To me, it's not a crash. It's just a bit of a liquidity grab. That's what the market makers like to do. There was a lot of longs piling up, and essentially they wanted to liquidate people, and that's what happened in a period of an hour. With over 126 million in liquidations in just 1 hour, that is obviously why we were coming down. They were trying to liquidate a ton of the longs. The market makers do what they've got to do, and they basically flush out the greedy hands and hit the reset. We can see the RSI is reset. The price has come down. The longs have been reset now. Now I believe it's time to potentially start thinking about coming back up. Now, we're going to start looking at some of the altcoins here because I personally believe we are entering this risk-on period in the markets. It's almost undeniable at this point. You know, there's guys like Benjamin Cowen who have been calling for dominance to essentially keep going up, but now some of these theories are getting put to rest because we fell below the golden pocket now on a weekly close on dominance. You can't keep denying this when constantly we keep closing at key levels, right? We closed below the 786 fib level. At that point, I called on the channel publicly and in my VIP group first the top on Bitcoin dominance. I told everyone I believe it's topped out, and now is the time to pivot into alts. People didn't listen to me, but the people who did listen to me, they made a ton of money on a lot of my plays. 2x's, 5x's, and even over 20x's on coins like Troll. So we got this close below the golden pocket, which to me is massive. The next target short term is 56%, and then after that I'm looking at 52%, and then potentially we could even hit 47% if things really go in our favor. But I'm not necessarily saying that is a guarantee, but I think it's very possible we could see dominance draw down into the low 50s at some point towards the end of August and the middle of September. That's kind of the range that I'm going for. I do expect a dump in September, but I expect it to be more so towards the mid to end of September than I expect it to be in the beginning. But obviously anything can happen. Now, when we look at the fear and greed, which isn't something I reference too often on the channel, you can see we're still neutral here. And the reason I'm mentioning this is you are still pretty early, especially when it comes to altcoins. We're still quite high in price when it comes to Bitcoin, but the fear and greed dynamics are still relatively neutral, which means the market hasn't reached this FOMO stage yet. It hasn't reached that, super hyped up phase. We're not at that yet. We're still very much in neutral territory, though I expect this to really tick up towards the greed side in the coming weeks. And you can see when we get into the greed side, it's usually a good time to be taking some profits. We're not there quite yet, but I expect we'll be there very, very soon after. Another indicator to potentially be looking at is the altcoin season index. That's given us 53 out of 100 as a score. Once you get above 75, you are in an alt season according to this. But the reality is you should already be selling by the time it flashes alt season, because by the time it flashes alt season, there's really not long left. You should probably be thinking about packing your bags. So it's really a good thing that we're still around 53 and we're not as high as 75, because back in December we got to 88. That was a great time to sell, and then we crashed down, and a lot of people got wrecked. Now, as for total 3, we are still below all-time highs on total 3. We essentially double topped, triple topped, whatever you want to call it here, at the 2021 levels back in 2024. We double topped. There's no other way around it. We literally rejected at those 2021 levels. And when you factor in inflation, we still haven't even really gotten too close to the 2021 levels if you do this inflation adjusted version of the chart, okay? Which I'm not doing here. This is just a regular USD chart. But if you do factor in the debasement of the currency, really we're still nowhere near those 2021 bull market levels. I personally believe we will see total 3 go to 1.47 trillion in market cap. The reason I believe that is because it is the fib level of the 1.618. I believe it's very realistic that total 3 could tick up to the 1.618 fib level, and we would see really great gains in that period of time, because that would essentially be adding around 500 billion into the altcoin market. And if you're in the right altcoins, you're going to get a fair share of that. Coins like Sui, coins like Say, I think would benefit tremendously from a $500 billion injection into the market. Now, that doesn't mean every coin's going to pump. There's going to be a lot of coins in the top 100 that honestly don't do that well. Maybe some only 2x, maybe some just get to the same levels that they were at back in January. But if you're in the winners, then you're going to make way more than a 2x, right? You're going to make some great gains if you are positioned in the winners. And that's exactly what I'm trying to do with my VIP members, is make sure that they are positioned in the winners. I've literally just dropped a buy alert on a meme coin. Not necessarily a clear winner. It's more of a degen play. But if you want to see that meme coin buy alert, you can access it over in the VIP. Now, when we look at others, man, I mean, this is still super beaten up right now, still significantly below those 2021 levels. Honestly, at this point, the way others is looking, I'd be happy even if it just did a double top, to be quite honest with you. That's how poor this others chart has performed since 2021. Though I am still somewhat optimistic we could get a very quick rally to the 1.618 fib around 622 billion, which is more than a 2x from here. But obviously, bear in mind, others is all the coins outside the top 10. They have such small market caps, you can move this up very quickly. Like, it doesn't take a lot to move it up in price. So, it's not too crazy to believe that it could 2x in a month. It really isn't. We've seen crazier things probably happen in crypto. So, honestly, I'm looking at anywhere between a double top on others potentially and maybe a slight higher high, which, would be tremendous for altcoins. Because again, if others does a 2x, that doesn't mean your portfolio will just do a 2x. If you're positioned in the outperformers, you could do a 5x, you could do a 7x. So it really depends on the quality of coins in your portfolio. And day in, day out, I see people with portfolios that just aren't that great. If you want help, if you want assistance with your portfolio, you know where to go. I'm here to help you get that portfolio in shape and have an edge to start being one of the winners in this market. Now, I mentioned I would discuss two altcoins where their charts look ready, and one of them is Say. Now, I was personally targeting a close above this resistance on Say. Unfortunately, we just come shy, just slightly shy of this resistance line on Say, which literally, if you look here, stems all the way back to the all-time highs. Since then, every time it's come in contact with this resistance line, it has rejected numerous times, numerous times. I think it's possible that maybe this week, Say could potentially close above this key resistance. That's something I'd be watching for. If Say closes above this big resistance, it is officially, back into an uptrend and no longer in a downtrend. Because Say has essentially been in a downtrend since it hits all-time highs. Now, it might not seem like that for some of you guys who are in the VIP group because we were buying Say as low as 15 cents. You're up 2x right now if you bought that alert. But you've got to zoom out and look at the bigger picture. It is still officially in a downtrend. But if we get to get above this line, that would signal a trend reversal, and I would be extremely bullish on Say. I think it could hit pretty much $1 pretty soon after that breakout. Another one I'm looking at is Heroes of Mavia. It's still in this same pattern here, this same compressive state. We had this fake out, which I don't even know what caused that. It seemed like a big whale maybe bought, or there's some sort of mini short squeeze. I don't know. But we essentially came straight back down to the pattern that we were in. And we just continue respecting the clear support and resistance here. And even on this dump that Bitcoin's done, Mavia has respected this clear pattern. So I am expecting a breakout to the upside here on Mavia, especially when Ethereum starts moving up again. ETH finding some support around 4.2K. Not a bad level to draw down to when you think about it. It's just pumped literally from 1.3K all the way up to 4.8K. My target on ETH, by the way, is just under 6K in September. I think we could get to 5.8K is my personal goal. We'll see how accurate that will be, but that is my personal target. And I think if Ethereum rallies pretty hard again, we'll see some of those risk-on coins, particularly on Ethereum, start to move. Aerodrome is my blue chip play. Morpho would be my mid cap play. And then if you want a micro cap, I'd be looking at Heroes and Mavia as a potential micro cap Ethereum beta play. So that pretty much wraps up the video, guys. Please make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and check out the VIP group linked down below if you want to start winning in this market, if you want to give yourself that competitive advantage. Remember, this is an investment in yourself. There's people who have joined this group, spent a very small amount of money when you consider it, and they've made a ton of money in a short period of time. And like I said, I just dropped a microcap meme coin buy alert. So if you want to access that alert before I go public with it, then you can access it through that VIP membership. I appreciate all of you tuning in, And yeah, I look forward to seeing you in the next video or live stream. Goodbye.